If saying no makes you feel like a horrible person, even when you have every right to say no, listen to me. You're not actually feeling guilty because you did something wrong. You're feeling guilty because you were taught that being a good person means being available for everyone. Think about it. Someone asks you for a favor and you don't want to do it. You say no, and 5 minutes later, you're replaying the conversation in your head, wondering if you sounded rude. That's not because you're a bad person. There's a reason your brain reacts this way, and once you understand it, you can finally start saying no without spending the rest of the day feeling guilty. And there are a few reasons why saying no can feel so uncomfortable. Reason number one, you were taught that having needs is selfish. Maybe growing up, you learned directly or indirectly that being a good person meant being accommodating. You were praised when you helped. You were appreciated when you sacrificed. You were the understanding one. So now, when you have a need of your own, your brain goes, wait, aren't we supposed to help them? For example, your friend calls you at 11 p.m. and she wants to talk about her relationship and you're exhausted. You have an exam tomorrow. You really don't have the emotional energy to have that conversation. But instead of saying, I'm sorry, I'm too tired tonight, can we talk tomorrow? You say, yeah, tell me everything. And now you're lying in bed at 1 a.m. listening to someone else's problem while you're exhausted and stressed about your own. And the frustrating part is you don't necessarily think that you did something wrong because according to you, you did something good, which was sacrificing your own needs and showing up for your friend. I mean, there's nothing wrong with showing up for people around you or like for people you care, but your needs should be your priority. Your goal should be your priority. You don't have to sacrifice your needs for them all the time. Reason number two, you are terrified of disappointing people. Sometimes the guilt isn't really about saying no, it's about what you think will happen after you say no. Maybe you have experienced people becoming angry with you. Maybe someone gave you the silent treatment. Maybe they made you feel like you were selfish. Maybe they withdrew their affection when you didn't do what they wanted. So now your brain has learned if I disappoint someone, something bad might happen. And that's why something as simple as saying, I can't come today can feel terrifying. You start imagining their reaction. Are they going to be upset? Are they going to stop talking to me? Are they going to think I'm selfish? So you say yes. Not because you actually want to, but because their disappointment feels more painful than your own discomfort. And this is something I really want you to remember. Someone being disappointed by your boundary doesn't automatically mean your boundary was wrong. People are allowed to be disappointed, and you're allowed to say no. Both things can exist at the same time. Reason number three, you grew up in an environment where nobody really said no. Okay, so this one can really be subtle. Maybe you grew up watching your parents constantly sacrifice. Someone needed something, they did it. Someone asked for a favor, they helped them. Someone wanted something, their needs came first. Maybe you rarely heard, no, I'm tired, or no, I don't want to, or I can't do that today. So you never really learned that saying no could be normal. You learn that love looks like sacrifice. You learn that being a good family member means adjusting. You learned if I can help, I should, and that can follow you into adulthood as well. Your friend asks you to travel across the city to help her with something. You're already exhausted, you don't want to go, but you think, well, technically I can, so you go. And this is where I want you to notice something. Being capable of doing something doesn't mean you're obligated to do it. You can help someone and still have your boundaries. You can love people and still say no. You can care about someone and still choose yourself sometimes. Reason number four, parentification. And this one can be deeper. If you had to become responsible for other people's emotions or problems at a very young age, you may have to learn to constantly monitor what everyone else needs. You become the person who notices when someone's upset. You calm people down. You avoid conflict. You help with things that weren't really your responsibility. You become the mature one, and eventually you start thinking, if someone is unhappy, I need to fix it. So imagine you're having a terrible day. You're already exhausted. You don't want to talk, but your friend is upset, and your instinct is not, I need some rest. It's, how do I make her feel better? And when you finally say, I'm sorry, I can't talk right now, you feel guilty because somewhere along the way you learn to measure your worth by by how useful you are to other people. But listen to me, you're not responsible for managing everyone's emotions. You can care, you can support, you can love someone, but you don't have to abandon yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. You don't have to be their parent. You don't have to be like someone who thinks it's my responsibility to make other people cheerful. Like, no, everyone's emotions is their own responsibility. You don't have to regulate everyone's emotions. You don't have to be a parent. Like, you can't be a parent when you're still a child. That's it. Everyone's emotions, everyone's trauma, or like whatever situation that someone is going through is their own business. It's not yours. So, how do you actually deal with the guilt? Because knowing why you feel guilty is helpful, but what to do when you actually feel the guilt? Like, there are three things I want you to practice. First, sit with the guilt. This is probably the hardest one. So, when you say no and you immediately feel guilty, your first instinct might be to undo it, right? You say, actually, never mind, I'll do it. Don't. At least not immediately. Give yourself some time. Let the guilt be there, because feeling guilty doesn't mean you need to take action. You can feel guilty and still keep your boundary. Think about it like this. If you are learning to say no after years of always saying yes, of course it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're doing something unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong. So the next time you say no and you feel that horrible feeling in your stomach, try telling yourself, I feel guilty, but I don't need to fix this feeling. Let it pass. Tip number 2, teach yourself that it's safe to say no. This is where affirmations can help. And I'm not talking about saying something once and magically becoming confident. You may have spent years learning that saying no makes you feel selfish. So you're going to have to repeatedly teach yourself something different. Tell yourself, I'm allowed to say no. My needs matter too. Someone being disappointed doesn't mean I've done something wrong. I don't have to sacrifice myself to prove that I care. I can be a good person and still have my boundaries. And repeat them again and again, because the goal isn't to convince yourself in one afternoon. The goal is to make these thoughts feel normal. Tip number 3, reality check the guilt. This is my favorite one. Whenever you feel guilty after saying no, stop and ask yourself, did I actually do something wrong? Or am I just uncomfortable because someone didn't get what they wanted from me? Those are two very different things. For example, you tell your friend, I'm sorry I can't hang out tonight. I need some time to myself, and your friend is disappointed. Does that mean you did something wrong? No. You didn't insult them. You didn't betray them. You simply said no. Or maybe someone asked you for a favor and you genuinely don't have the capacity. You say no. They get annoyed. Again. Their reaction is information about how they are feeling. It isn't automatically evidence that you did something wrong. So whenever the guilt appears, ask yourself, what exactly did I do wrong? If the answer is nothing, I just disappointed them, then maybe you don't need to apologize for having a boundary. And I want you to remember this. You don't have to become someone who never feels guilty when they say no. The goal isn't to never feel uncomfortable. The goal is to stop letting that discomfort make your decisions for you. Because sometimes you're going to say no and still feel guilty. Say no anyway. Sometimes someone is going to be disappointed. Let them be. Sometimes you feel selfish. Remind yourself that having needs doesn't make you selfish, and slowly saying no will stop feeling like you're doing something terrible. It will start feeling like what it actually is, a normal part of having a life of your own. And if nobody has told you this before, let me be the older sister who tells you now. You're allowed to choose yourself without hating yourself for it. So that is it for today's video, and let me know what do you think about this one, and we'll meet next time. Till then, bye bye.